I used to think that routine was safety. The morning coffee, the same drive down the same avenue, the same face smiling across the breakfast table. For years that rhythm kept me steady, a quiet comfort in a loud city. But now every ordinary thing around me feels like evidence of a lie. My name is Daniel Reed, 50 years old, former cop. I've spent most of my life learning how to read people, their habits, their hesitations, the way guilt sits in their eyes. But I never thought I'd have to use that skill on the woman I loved. It started on a Monday, like most endings do. Laura left the house before sunrise. Said she had an early meeting downtown. She kissed me goodbye, quick, distracted, and her perfume lingered longer than the kiss itself. When the door shut behind her, the house felt heavier. I didn't know why. Maybe I did, but I didn't want to admit it yet. R9, my phone buzzed. No name, just a number I didn't know. The message was short. You deserve to know what she's been doing. Attached was a photo. Grainy, taken from a distance, but even through the blur, I recognized her. My wife, Laura, sitting in a restaurant booth, her hand resting on the wrist of another man. She was smiling, that small half-smile she used to give me when she thought no one else was looking. For a minute, I just stared at the screen, waiting for my mind to find another explanation. Maybe it was an old picture. Maybe it was work. Maybe the universe was playing one of its cruel jokes. But deep down, in the place where instincts live, I knew something was broken. That night, she came home late. Said the meeting ran long. I didn't tell her about the message. I just watched her move around the kitchen, graceful, distracted, humming under her breath like nothing had changed. She looked at me once, and for the first time in 25 years, I didn't recognize the woman standing there. When she went upstairs, I checked her car. I told myself it was habit, the investigator in me, not the husband. But I noticed the details right away, mileage higher than it should be. A hotel parking ticket folded between the seats. The faint trace of a man's cologne that wasn't mine. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, holding that slip of paper in my hand, feeling the kind of cold that doesn't come from weather. I'd seen men fall apart over less. In the precinct, we called it the quiet collapse, when you realize the life you built wasn't real, but you still have to live in it. The next day, I followed her. Old habits die hard. She thought she was leaving for the office. She didn't know I was 3 cars behind, blending into morning traffic, watching her silhouette in the blur of the rear window. She didn't drive downtown. She crossed the bridge, headed toward the west side, a district full of offices that rent space by the hour. Not exactly the kind of place for corporate meetings. She parked outside a coffee shop, checked her reflection in the mirror, and walked inside. 10 minutes later, a man in a dark suit joined her. He looked younger, confident, too at ease. They sat close, their heads tilted toward each other in that intimate way people do when the rest of the world disappears. I watched them through the rain-streaked windshield. My pulse didn't race. It just slowed, like my body was preparing for something heavy. When she laughed, it felt like a knife twisting in the quiet space between heartbeats. I drove away before they saw me. I didn't need more proof. I'd spent my life chasing truth for a living, and now the truth had found me, whether I wanted it or not. That night, when she came home, I pretended everything was normal. We ate dinner, talked about bills, our son's job interview, the leaking faucet she said she'd call a plumber for. Every word out of her mouth sounded rehearsed, every smile slightly too perfect. And the whole time, I could feel the photo burning in my pocket, like a piece of evidence waiting to be used. Later, lying beside her in bed, I watched the ceiling and counted her breaths. I thought about how betrayal doesn't hit all at once. It seeps in slow and quiet until it fills every corner of your life. I thought about the strangers who'd sent that message. Who were they and why now? I thought about the man she was with. And I thought about how much of myself I'd already lost to a woman I no longer knew. Sleep never came. Around 3 in the morning, I went downstairs, poured a glass of whiskey, and sat by the window. The city outside looked peaceful from here, lights flickering, distant sirens, taxis weaving through the streets like veins in a restless body. Somewhere out there, Laura was living another life, and I was just a shadow in the old one. I told myself I'd confront her tomorrow, but I didn't. Tomorrow turned into the next day, and then the next, because part of me wasn't ready to lose her, not yet. Another part, the detective still buried inside, wanted to know everything. The who, the where, the why. And so began the investigation. Not of her, but of the truth. The morning after I decided to start digging felt heavier than most. The city outside was waking up, all glass and motion. But inside the apartment the silence had weight. Laura had already left for work, or at least that's what she said in the note she left by the coffee pot. I didn't drink it. I couldn't stand the smell anymore. When you've been a cop long enough, you learn that people build patterns without realizing it. They eat at the same cafe, park in the same spot, make the same excuses. Lies are no different. They follow rhythm too. You just have to listen close enough to hear it. I opened my laptop, pulled up a few old contacts, people who still owed me favors from the force. Within an hour, I had a trace on that anonymous number. It led to a prepaid phone bought from a bodega in Queens. No ID, no trail. Clean. Someone knew how to hide. But they'd made one mistake, the timestamp. The message was sent exactly 5 minutes after Laura left for work. Whoever sent it was watching her. Or watching me. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about control. Someone wanted me to know. That afternoon I followed her again. Same route as before, but this time I parked farther back, out of her mirrors. She drove across the bridge, turned toward the west side again, and stopped in front of the same coffee shop. Routine, always routine. But today was different. The man she met wasn't the same one from before. He was older, mid-40s maybe, tall, well-dressed, with that calm kind of arrogance money gives you. He handed her a folder, and for a moment I thought maybe I'd been wrong, maybe this really was about work. But then she touched his hand. Not like a colleague, like someone who already knew what that skin felt like. I felt my throat tighten. Not anger yet, just a hollow, quiet kind of realization. I snapped a photo through the windshield. Old instincts never fade. Then I watched them walk together toward the side street, where a line of taxis waited. I didn't follow. Not this time. Instead, I went home, poured myself a drink, and pinned that printed photo next to the one from the message on my office corkboard. To men, to meetings. One woman. I started mapping the pattern. Monday, early meeting. Thursday, late return. Friday, networking event. Always the same sequence. Every life fits somewhere. Every story has a shape. When she came home that evening, I was sitting in the dark. She turned on the light, startled. "Daniel, why are you sitting like that?" I shrugged. "Thinking about what? Work? Life? You know how it is." She smiled faintly and walked past me. I watched her hang up her coat, place her purse on the table, check her phone, 3 movements she always did in the same order. She didn't notice that her hands were trembling. That's when I knew she was scared of something. Maybe of me. Maybe of what she'd done. Or maybe of something else entirely. Later that night, after she fell asleep, I opened her laptop. She'd changed the password. She'd never done that before. It was like discovering a locked door inside your own house. I spent the next few days quietly digging. The man from the coffee shop, his name was Richard Hale, executive at the same firm Laura worked for. Married, 2 kids, spotless reputation. But a few months ago, he'd been investigated internally for misuse of company resources. The report had disappeared before it reached her. And then there was something else. A second phone number linked to his name. The same one that had texted me that first message. It hit me like a punch. He was the one who told me. Her lover. But why? The idea made my stomach twist. Was it guilt, jealousy, or something more calculated? I started seeing him everywhere. in reflections, in crowds, in the corner of my thoughts. The man who'd taken my wife and still wanted to play games. I couldn't tell Laura what I knew. Not yet. I needed proof, something undeniable, something that would shatter the last of her lies. So I called in another favor, an old friend from the precinct, retired now but still with access to things the public wasn't supposed to see. I sent him the photo, the phone number, the timeline. 2 days later, he called me back. His voice was tense. "Danny, you sure you want to keep pulling this thread?" "Why?" "Because whatever's on the other end of it, it's not just about your wife. You're walking into something bigger. And I think they already know you're looking." I remember the silence that followed. Just the low hum of the city through the window, like a pulse. "Who's they?" I asked, but the line had already gone dead. That night, I sat in the dark again, staring at the corkboard, at the photos, the notes, the receipts. The pattern was growing clearer, but so was the danger. Somewhere in this city my wife was living 2 lives. And somewhere else, someone was making sure I found out one piece at a time. I poured another drink and whispered to no one. If this is a game, I'm not the one who's going to lose. I didn't sleep the night after my old partner hung up. The city was still alive outside my window, all neon and noise, but inside my head there was only the question he never finished. Who's they? By morning the air in the apartment felt wrong, like the silence before a storm. Laura was already gone again. Her schedule had become unpredictable. Sometimes she'd leave at dawn, sometimes afternoon, but always with the same excuse: work. I opened my laptop and scrolled through the notes I'd been keeping. Photos, times, street names, the rhythm of her lies. It looked less like a marriage and more like a case file. That realization hurt more than anything. At 10:15, the phone rang. Unknown number. "Daniel Reed." A voice said. "Male, flat, professional." "Who's asking?" "Detective Harrison, NYPD. You still have friends downtown. One of them flagged your name in a report this morning." "What report?" He paused. "A man named Richard Hale. He was found dead last night in a parking structure off 46th. Looked like a mugging, but..." Another pause. "There's something off about it." I didn't answer. I just stared at the floor while the room tilted around me. The man who'd taken my wife and who'd sent me proof of it was gone. "Mr. Reed, you still there?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I knew him. My wife worked with him." "Then you might want to come down and make a statement." When the call ended, I sat there for a long time, the city's sounds pressing against the windows. For a second, I wondered if this was karma finally showing up with a badge. Then the detective in me whispered a darker thought. What if someone wanted him gone because he talked to me? The precinct hadn't changed much since I'd left. Same coffee smell, same tired faces. Harrison was younger than I expected, sharp eyes, a folder already waiting on his desk. He slid a few photos across the table, recognizing. I nodded. "Richard." His face looked peaceful in the photograph, too peaceful for the concrete around him. "Your wife's name is Laura Reed, correct?" "Yes." She was listed as a contact in his phone. "They worked together." "They did." He studied me for a moment. "You aware of any personal relationship between them?" I met his eyes. "No," I lied. He scribbled something down, but I could tell he didn't believe me. Detectives never believe the first answer. "Did he ever contact you?" I hesitated. "A few times." "About work?" "Nothing important." Another lie. I was stacking them now, one on top of another, hoping the tower wouldn't fall before I understood what was happening. When I left the station, the afternoon light felt too bright. The streets shimmered with heat, but I was cold inside. Someone had turned my private disaster into a crime scene. That evening, Laura came home earlier than usual. Her makeup was perfect, but her hands shook when she took off her coat. "You heard about Richard?" she asked. Her voice cracked halfway through his name. "I did," I said. She looked at me for a long time, searching for something, maybe guilt, maybe comfort, but I had nothing left to give her. "They said it was a robbery." "Did they?" Her eyes flickered. For the first time, She looked afraid of me. I wanted to ask her everything, how long it had gone on, why he'd messaged me, what she was hiding now. But another part of me, the part that still remembered what loving her used to feel like, couldn't form the words. Instead, I poured 2 glasses of wine. She didn't drink hers. I think I need some time, she whispered finally. Away from all this. Where? My sister's place, upstate. That was another lie. I could hear it in the hesitation before she said the word sister. After she went upstairs to pack, I checked her phone on the counter. One new message blinked on the screen. Don't talk to anyone. They're watching. No sender name. Just a number I didn't recognize. I copied it into my notebook, then set the phone back exactly as it had been. By midnight she was gone. A taxi took her north, headlights fading into the rain. I stood on the porch watching until they disappeared. Back inside, I opened my laptop again. I traced the new number. It bounced through to VPNs and ended at a server registered to a private security firm in Chicago. The name stopped me cold. Nova Corey Risk Management. I'd worked cases with them years ago, corporate espionage, data theft, high-end surveillance. If they were involved, this wasn't just about infidelity or even murder. It was about something bigger, something Laura might have stumbled into without realizing it, or maybe she had realized it all along. I closed the laptop and stared out the window at the city lights. Somewhere out there, answers existed hidden behind phone numbers, locked files, and half-truths. I whispered to myself, you wanted the truth, Danny. Now you've got a corpse, a missing wife, and a list of ghosts. And I knew I couldn't stop, not now. Not until I understood why a man had died for telling me what I was never supposed to know. The city always looks different at dawn. The light doesn't reveal things, it erases them. Streets go quiet, secrets cool off, and the people who've been awake all night start pretending again. I hadn't slept in 2 days. The trail led straight into Chicago, to the offices of Nova Corey Risk Management. I'd driven through the night, chasing a truth that felt less like an answer and more like a wound that wouldn't close. The building was a glass monolith, 20 floors of reflection and silence. Inside, everything smelled like money and fear. I told the receptionist I was there for an interview. She didn't question it. Nobody questions a man in a good suit with confidence in his eyes. The elevator carried me up to the 14th floor. My heart pounded with every number that lit up. Somewhere behind those mirrored doors were the people who'd sent the messages, the ones who'd turned my marriage into a crime scene. When the doors opened, a voice greeted me before I could step out. Mr. Reed, you made good time. It was a man in a navy suit, calm, precise, like someone used to giving orders. I didn't recognize his face, but the badge clipped to his belt said Security Director. His name tag read Coleman. I think you know why I'm here, I said. He nodded slowly, motioned toward his office. Let's talk. Inside, everything was too neat. No clutter, no warmth. He poured 2 glasses of water and slid one across the table. Your wife was one of ours, he said simply. Consultant. Contract basis. She was helping us investigate internal leaks at her firm. Hale was part of that leak. I stared at him. You're saying she was working for you? She was recruited 6 months ago, he said. We believe someone was selling client data to competitors. She got close to Hale to confirm it. Unfortunately, things got complicated. Complicated. That word again. It always means the truth's worse than you want to believe. She fell for him, I said quietly. Coleman didn't deny it. Human nature's messy, Mr. Reed. But make no mistake, Hale was dangerous. When he realized she'd been reporting on him, he tried to turn the situation around. He sent you that photo to manipulate her, to make you confront her, cause chaos, get her pulled off the case. But when that didn't work, he panicked. And someone took advantage of that. Someone killed him, I said. Coleman's expression didn't change. That's one way to put it. I felt the air leave my lungs. Where's Laura? He leaned back, hands folded. Safe, for now. She went dark for her own protection. Protection from what? From us, from them. It's a fine line these days. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then stood. Mr. Reed, you've seen enough. My advice, go home. Forget this, but I couldn't. I'd spent months chasing ghosts. I needed to see her one last time. It took another 2 days before she called. The number was blocked, but the voice was hers, Danny. Hearing her broke something in me. Where are you? I can't tell you. It wasn't supposed to be like this. They were watching everything. When Richard found out, he threatened to expose it. I didn't mean for any of this. Stop, I said. Just tell me the truth. Did you ever love him? Silence. Then a breath that sounded like regret. I loved you. I just forgot what that meant for a while. And then the line went dead. I never heard from her again. That was 6 months ago. I sold the house, left New York, moved west. I tell people I'm retired, but the truth is I'm just tired of chasing things that don't want to be found. Sometimes I dream about her. In the dream she's standing across the street in the rain, watching me. Sometimes she smiles. Sometimes she does in single quotes T. Every now and then a letter shows up, no return address. Just a city postmark and a single line inside. Still watching. Stay safe. Maybe it's her. Maybe it's a warning. I've stopped trying to decide, because in the end, truth doesn't set you free. It just changes the kind of prison you live in, and I've learned to live with that.